どうもとんぷーです。この動画が初投稿となります。今日からいろいろなゲーム実況動画投稿していきたいと思っております。よろしくお願いいたします。早速ですが、こちらザ・ファーストツリー始めていきたいと思います。こちらのゲームはですね、2017年に PC 版で発売され、翌年スイッチ版、PS4 版、Xbox 版と発売されました。内容としてはですね、この母狐を操作してとある男性の記憶の断片っていうんですかねを集めて、なんか掘り起こすみたいなんですけれども、掘り起こしていってゴールを目指すというゲームになっております。ちょっとさっき動作確認みたいなのをしたので続けるっていうのが出ちゃってるんですけど、新しいゲームで始めていきたいと思います。はい。すごい綺麗ですよね。この景色がとても、音楽もなんか壮大ですしね。この狐さんを動かすのかな。
Are you awake?
お、
I thought I heard you get up.
起きて
Yeah,
起き上がって
I'm awake. Sorry, I just can't sleep.
なんだか眠れなくてさ。
Are you thinking about him?
Yeah, a bit. You should get back to sleep, my love. I'm fine.
No, it's okay. What else is on your mind?
I don't know. It seems weird, but I had one of the most vivid dreams of my
そ
life.
れは
I
夢な
saw
ん
a
ですね。
fox
この
on a
狐
snowy
さん
mountain,
の
just looking
男の
confused
人
and worried.
の夢の
Those
中で
eyes.
狐が
I can't get those eyes out of my head.
探し物をしてい
She
る
was
と。
running in the windy snow, looking for something.
Do you think it has to do with you and what's been going on?
I don't know. It was just a dream, Rachel. They're not meant to make sense. A lot's happened the past couple days, that's all.
Well, if you're not going to sleep anyway, you should tell me. I want to hear.
All right.
.ちなみに言っておくとですね、ちょっと自分なんか見つけた。自分あんまりゲーム上手くなくて、するの大好きなんですけど、あんまり上手くないので操作感とかが下手だなこいつって思っちゃうところがあるところもあると思うんですけど、そこは温かく見守っていただければなと思います。これ小狐だよね。
So, not far from her home, she followed that path to something
彼女
unexpected.
は予測できないものへと続く道をたどるんだ。かわいそう。どうにもできないんだね。
She couldn't stay though. She had to find her other two children,
他の2匹
so she took that path. She followed it towards something ancient,
古のものへと続
something
い
with
ているみたいな。
answers.
お、あ、結構広い。あ、ここでね、タイトルがね、ザ・ファーストツリー。はい、始まりますね。あ
The
の
fox
光を、
looked high and
は
low, searching for any sign of her cubs. Points of light showed the way to this ancient tree.
い、
It was as if each one had a story to tell, all their own. The land was trying to tell my story too.
カウントされて
I
る。
felt like I was right behind her the whole time.
集めることで何かあるのかな。とりあえずじゃあまっすぐ行けばいい感じですかね。これを光ってるところを目指し、雨降ってきたな。これ雨だよな。あっちは晴れてるけど。狐の嫁入り的な。狐だからな。でももう嫁入りっていうか嫁にはなってんだよな。母狐ですよね。
Do you remember what my dad did for a living?
Wasn't he like a lumberjack?
That's one way of putting it. If wood was a canvas, then a carving knife was his paintbrush. Even after working a 50-hour week, even after his hands were more splinters than skin, he would bring home the nicest piece of Alaskan weeping cedar and make me toys. That wooden train was the first toy I can remember, and I loved it. I just knew from a young age I was going to be a lumberjack, like my father.
お父さんのことを尊敬してたんですね。いいことだよ。
Usually those kids would leave me alone, but somehow they could tell I was different. They made fun of how far away I lived. They called my dad a sourdough. I was a blabbermouth as a kid, telling my dad stories I made up for hours. But after that show and tell, I didn't tell him much anymore. He didn't know exactly what was wrong, but his best guess was that the toys he carved weren't cool enough. He carved me a tank and tried to tell me what it was like to be in a real tank as a serviceman.
I didn't know your dad was in the military.
Yeah, in the army. The sad thing is that I'd pretty much forgotten until just now. There's so much I still don't know about him.
I'm sorry. He knows how much you love him. You're going to see him again soon and have some closure, I'm sure.
癒されますね、これは。どこが光ってたんだろう。あ、さっき来たとこやん。こっちだと思った。違うのかな。こっち行けそう。行けそうだね。雪山ですね。綺麗やけども。ローディング。おっと、季節は変わってじゃあな。
My teenage years were full of sketching, angst, and trouble. I wasn't popular or unpopular. Maybe just forgettable. I guess that gave me a sense of freedom. So I hung out with crazy kids, doing crazy things, even though I mostly just watched the chaos ensue. We did it all. Put fireworks in mailboxes, hide roadkill in people's garages, break windows of the barber shop in Anchorage. My dad was furious, but he was so busy working he couldn't do much to stop me from going
そ
out.
りゃ怒りますよ、親
I
父さ
think
ん。
being an adult means there's no one to stop you making hard decisions. He had to make a living, and he couldn't be in two places at once.
Yeah, I realize that now. But at the time, I was sure he was more interested in growing his business than what was going on with me.
ちょっとあれだな、思春期特有のというか。あ、花火。花火結構なやつだよ。悪いやつだな。意外にちょっと操作が微妙に難しいんだよな。
He was working another late night, and my friends were over, saying how bored they were and how they had come all the way out to my house for nothing. One of them mentioned how that old, ugly beyond belief truck was still in the garage, and how we should take it for a spin. I was only 15, so I kind of fought it for a while. The next thing I knew, we were careening around the mountain path, rocks spitting onto the sides of the cliff, while my dad's cringeworthy bluegrass blared out the speakers. I drove while my friends were in the back of that yellow and purple truck, throwing beer bottles and trash at anything remotely interesting. Felt like I was soaring in the air with borrowed wings. But all good things have endings.
飛行少年だったわけ
A
です
cop
ね。
outside of Eagle River pulled us over after he saw us in a bottle rocket into someone's
イーグル
yard.
リバーって野外に行った
What followed was a long night of talking to disappointed adults and feeling smaller than ever.
怒られちゃうよね。そりゃ怒られちゃうよね。蝶々だ。間違えた。なんだろう。蝶を連れてこいと。よっ。蝶ね。その前にジャンプしなきゃいけないんだな。滝。3つ？蝶9匹釣れないといけないってことか。9匹連れてこないとダメ。どこだろう。さっきのところとちょい
After he drove me home from the police station, I blew up at him, saying how I never wanted to be like him, how I was going to be someone and leave that hick icebox for good. He just looked forward at the road with tired eyes. I took out that bluegrass tape from the cassette deck and chucked it out the window. In my sage teenage wisdom, I thought I had proved the ultimate point. But my dad had a different idea. He slammed the brakes, slowly bowed his head
ハンド
while
ルを
gripping the
握り
steering
ながらゆっくり
wheel
頭を下げるとやっと僕
and finally looked at me. All he said, like it was a polite
謙虚な要
request,
求を口にし
was
た。正しい
make this
ことを
right.
しろと。
I sat there in silence, fuming, but I eventually got out and combed every square inch of the woods, muttering profanity after profanity. I found it 30 minutes later, near a small waterfall off the road. I went back to the truck, put the wet tape
僕
back
と親
in,
父が口を聞
and
く
sure
ことは
enough, it
なかった。
worked. We didn't speak another word to each other the rest of the night.
Wow, I knew you were a crazy teenager, but
It's hard to believe, isn't it? Surprises me too. It's like I didn't really know who that kid was
誰な
back
んだろう
then.
って思うよ。
I bet my dad thought the same thing over and over. It's almost like he was saying, make this
正しい
right
こ
to
とをしろは
himself,
まるで
more
僕
than
よ
to
り
me.
親父が自分自身に言っていたようだった。難しいよね。年頃のね。あと一匹どこだわ。滝のとことそこ、いるじゃん。これじゃん。
My friends would laugh about that night and talk about how crazy it was,
その夜だけ
and I laughed along, pretending it didn't bother me. But it did.
してたんだ。
I imagined my friends growing old in the bush, unable to find that thrill in those godforsaken ice fields. It's like those mountains were a literal wall, keeping me from leaving, where all I would have to look forward to are lumber yards and evening beers. I had to climb over. That was my only goal for a long time. If there was some way I could take my love of drawing and turn it into a way of escape, nothing would make me happier. I wanted to create instead of tearing trees down. I wanted to move to the lower 48, not because I hated it there in Alaska, but I hated the idea of it. It's like all of that spite inside me had created this monster which followed me around my whole teenage years. I put so much energy into doing what others didn't expect of me. Why did I do that?
there's one fact you're forgetting, though. If you didn't have that fire in you, we probably would have never met.
You're absolutely right. Maybe the destination is all that matters in the end. But then why am I awake? Why am I seeing this fox go on her journey? And why can't I stop thinking about my dad?
Eh? どういうこと？食べたのか？食べたのかな？降りていいのかな？広いマップ広いっていうか広大な世界
city, there were old abandoned pieces of a shed and car long left unused. I used to ask him all the time who those people were that left all this junk, and I'm sure he got so tired of hearing it that he made up some elaborate stories how a brown bear ate them and haunted the woods afterwards. What's funny is I think it made those people seem more real. Growing up thinking they were still hanging out like they couldn't say goodbye. I used to tell my friends how I could swear I saw spirits move near the water, and that always freaked them out. I guess it didn't bother me, because the way I saw it, they were normal people with old cars and sheds, just trying to figure out how to survive and be happy in the middle of nowhere. It was a cool thought that they didn't want to leave, but you know, I was a weird kid.
Well, you had good company since those ghosts liked living in a place where they were brutally devoured.
あなたの周りが心地よかったんじゃないのかしら。壊れた子よ。またあるけど、とりあえずお話できるかね。
Even at my most distant, at the times when I detested him the most, he kept reaching out. For a year straight, he asked me every week when we were going camping. I thought he was just dense. Eventually, to shut him up, I agreed. We carried out the worn lawn chairs from the garage and set up a cinder block campfire at the site we had always used behind the house. We walked down the mountain path, talking in the warm sunshine we only got a couple months of the year. Those 3 obsidian rocks shimmered alongside the shore, almost like sparklers pressed against a dark window. I'll never forget that wet stone on my feet, or how those massive mountains looked even bigger in the lake's reflection. I felt small, but grateful. As the sun set, my dad found something I hadn't seen for a long time. The tree where I'd made my first carving when I was 6. I hadn't even carved it. My dad had helped me, but I still called it my tree. Something about seeing my name there made me open up, and we talked about everything that night in that old camouflage tent. I told him how much I loved sketching and design, and how it would be a dream to study architecture in Seattle. I told him how I didn't get along with my friends much anymore, but that I didn't mind being alone. He told me he was there for me, and he joked that if all he had to do was write my name on a tree to finally get me to talk, he would have left me carved logs with novels on them in front of my room every morning. I don't know why it took me that long to realize it, but it was then I knew how much he had sacrificed for me.
大人になってからね、気づくこともやっぱりありますよね。づいたけど、また距離感、よし、分かった。
We were happiest underneath the
エ
evergreens.
バーグリーンの下で僕ら
We decided it was time to finally map out the hundreds of acres we lived on just to pass the time during the summer. He was only free in the evenings, so I would spend the day wasting time on dial-up internet and sketching, and then we would rush into the woods, pen and map in hand, before evening fell. Sometimes the aurora borealis would cast a cold green glow on the mountainside, and we would finish our route underneath a twilight sky. Sometimes I was lonely during those summer days, but there was comfort in the routine.
A lot of teenagers aren't looking for the daily grind, though. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get out, to leave your childhood home. You wanted to progress, to make something of yourself.
Yeah, you're right. That house. I'm sure it's the same as how I left it. But then why does it feel so different?
I doubt you're the only adult to have looked back and asked that question.
振り返ってその質問するのはあなただけじゃないと思うわ。下のったよな。うい。
Built a lot of stuff in his free time. If he wasn't watching fly fishing or reading Tom Clancy novels, he was carving something. He made tons of birdhouses. Not that he was into bird watching, but I think he really missed working and adding on to the home. If he couldn't afford the time to build onto our own house, he would have to settle with watching birds move into their little homes. We kept an old mattress in the bed of that ugly yellow truck, so we would drive it deep into the woods and then watch the birds fly into their houses while the sun set. Usually it was accompanied by venison jerky or a cold Coke, but not a lot of talking, which is how we both liked it.
きどっかに光の柱見えた気がしたのはどこだったっけ。あ、地理か。結構探索続けてますけれども、ちょっとあの光への行き方がわからないんだよな。どうやって行けば、あ、しかもあれ、あ、行けるようになってる。 だー、なるほど、いけるようになってる。だ、ちょっとあそこのも一旦諦めて。
The perpetrator stood nearby,
犯
unfazed,
者は同日、
like nothing was wrong,
死んだ親父はもう戻ってくることはないんだよ、レイチェル。
and he's never coming back, Rachel.
もう親父と一緒
I
に
can
懐
tell
かし
you
む
these
こともできな
stories,
い。
but I can never reminisce with him again. He can never hold a
この先多分
grandchild that we'll
授かる
probably
こ
never
と
be
も
able to
できない
have.
孫
I
を
can never
そ
talk
の
to him again, and I'll never
腕
be
に
able
抱
to
く
say
こ
I'm
ともでき
sorry
やしない。
for everything.
もう会うことも謝ることもできないんだ。何よ。お父さん。2匹目。なるほど。お父さんの懐かしい昔話をしてたのは、事故か事件かの加害者ってことはなんかあったんですよね。それでお父さんの昔話をしてた。なんか思い出すことがいろいろあってっていう感じ。おるな、なんか。まあということで、ちょっといい時間になったので、今回はここまで。ちょっと気になる感じで終わりますが、とりあえず今回はここまでにしたいと思います。いやー、なかなか綺麗なね、すごい荘厳な感じの景色で、雰囲気すごく良くて、お話もね、なんか切ない感じの物語になって、また次回多分次でクリアできるんじゃないかなとは思うので、この感じ、前編後編って形で投稿できたらなと思っております。いかがでしたでしょうか。少しでもね、こちらの動画面白いなと思っていただけたのであれば、ぜひね、皆様もご自身でこのゲームのザ・ファーストツリーの世界観を体感していただいて、ゲームをプレイしていただけたら嬉しいなと思います。ついでにですね、ついででいいので、チャンネル登録や高評価していただけるととても嬉しいです。では今回はこの辺で、また次の動画でお会いしましょう。ご視聴ありがとうございました。トンプーでした。